Is good, everyone? This is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free. To live your best life, you must live label free. And I'm back with another incredible guest. My next guest is a best-selling and award-winning indie author known for engaging narratives that often blend romance with deeper emotional themes. We're talking about her newest book and one that's coming soon, Finding Scarlet, and then her next one, The Unabridged Life of Missy Kincaid. Please welcome Kirsten Pursell. Kirsten, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Well, so what is the difference between a romance novel blended with deeper emotional themes versus just a romance novel?
Oh, I think the romance novels tend to have this kind of happily ever after, and honestly, to be categorized as a romance novel, you have to have it end with a happily
Yeah,
ever after.
yeah.
I believe in happily ever afters. My books are all happily ever afters, but I think the last three books that I've written, the deeper emotional themes, they're dealing with a woman in her 50s. The protagonist
Okay.
is a middle-aged woman in her 50s going through major life reckonings, more or
Yeah.
less. And they're obviously for me, they're very much predicated on real life, what I was going through in my own life at the time. And I took those emotions and I channeled them into books. And I think that's what resonates a lot with the readers is that I don't just talk about a woman going through divorce and finding new love. I talk about the deeper
Yeah.
edge feelings that you have to reconcile and deal with, internal monologues, those types of things. So I take it below the surface, I think, a little bit more than what you might get in a traditional romance, and I explore the emotions that are tied to someone making really big decisions in their life and honestly figuring out who they are before they explore this whole second chance and life and love component of the books.
So you have a real specific market or specific reader, I'd say.
I do
Yeah.
now. I don't think I set out on this journey to become this divorced women's fiction slash women's contemporary fiction voice, but my readers have told me I am their voice and I'm
Yeah.
writing things that they didn't know how to articulate, and it's really kind of cool.
I would say so. And in today's world, I think that, you know, women in their 50s are learning to really embrace and share their voice a little bit more. So you're kind of empowering that a little bit and being a crusader for women that are maybe going through something that they don't know how to articulate.
Yeah, I think that it's nice for people to see themselves inside of pages and not
Mhm.
necessarily nonfiction
Yeah.
pages, right? Which tend to preach to us. And I've done my fair share of trying to read self-help books. And I think honestly, sometimes seeing ourselves in fictional characters and realizing that they have to be somewhat real. I don't think you just make up characters, at least I don't, that
Yeah.
aren't based on some part of myself. And people ask me, "Who are you?" And I say, "I'm Jen and Long Enough to Love You. I'm Scarlet and Finding Scarlet, and I'm
Yeah.
Missy and The Unabridged Life of Missy Kincaid." I mean, I'm some amalgamation of all of them.
So what was your first book?
So my first book I actually wrote back in 2012 called
Okay.
Harvard, and it was a romance. And then I wrote another one after that called Company Clown, loosely based on my corporate time. And then I got lost in being a mom. I was a corporate go-getter, and then I was a stay-at-home mom, and I kind of kicked ass at that, and I never thought it would end, honestly,
Um,
and kind of naive of me to think that, but it ended, and
yeah.
with that, my marriage started to fall apart. And so 4 years ago, actually, is when I really started this author's journey. And I started by writing my memoir. And that kind of gave way to the story that I really wanted to tell, Long Enough to Love You, which is the true woman unpacking her marriage and trying to figure out, does she want to be in it? Who is she when the nest is empty and you've lost your identity to raising your children? And can you make a marriage work that pretty much was just based on raising your children? I mean, I think that's so real for a lot of people where
Yeah.
you sit there when
Absolutely.
the nest empties and you're like, holy cow,
Yeah.
like, are we okay? And in my case, we weren't okay. We tried. It wasn't horrible. He was a good man. I just couldn't see the rest of my life that way. And so I wrote Long Enough to Love You, and it became a love story in that it was about a woman also exploring and reconnecting with a first love and kind of tying that excitement of a first love into the that same kind of excitement that you can explore and get when you're in your 50s and you have
Yeah.
the opportunity to love again. And so that was my second book in the last 4 years, which is really when I consider my journey to have started. And that's when I realized I had this voice, and women I didn't know were reaching
Mm.
out to me going, "Oh my God, you told my story."
Yeah.
And oh my God, I reconnected with my first love. And oh my God, all it's like, wow, okay, cool. And then I got some awards for it, and it became an Amazon bestseller. So it was really kind of empowering to know that I could have that voice. And I went through my divorce ended. I went into a relationship and I discovered that I had this Finding Scarlet story. And that was the
Mm.
next side of divorce, right? Where you make a decision to leave your old life and go start this new
Yeah.
life. And this character, Scarlet, leaves her California roots and goes to South Carolina on a whim. She picks Sullivan's Island because her maiden name was Sullivan. I mean,
Okay.
there was no connection to the
Yeah.
island. She goes there wanting new beginnings. She walks into a divorced women's book club and realizes that not all divorcees are the same. And I
Mm.
like to write about women that are like the anti-women scorn. Like
Sure.
I don't think that all women are victims in their divorce.
I agree with you
Yeah,
1000%.
I
And
think
and
sometimes
that's a healthy perspective to share.
yeah, and I mean I think we're allowed to ask for divorce. I think we're allowed to make mistakes in marriages, and we do make mistakes. I am not the what is it, the He-Man Hater Woman's Club or whatever.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
believe that. I think sometimes we're the bad guy, and so Scarlett goes into this naively into this divorced women's book club, thinking they're all the same, but she confesses that she was the one that was had an emotional affair,
Yeah.
and women didn't like that, but it turns out that other women had been keeping their own secrets about why their marriages ended, and she creates this alliance with a couple other women and they brand themselves Scarlet's Harlots, right? The anti-women scorn. They're
Yeah.
brandishing the Scarlet D on their chest for divorcee, right?
Yeah.
Like and I think it's healthy to have a protagonist that isn't perfect. This Scarlet is scarred. She's,
Sure.
you
As
know,
we all are, right?
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think when I initially put that book out, I actually put it out as the Scarlet D, and I was getting all this feedback that it's really kind of a woman's empowerment story, less so than it is a love story. I mean, granted, there's she is sowing her sexual oats.
Prowess.
Yeah, she discovers, I think the biggest thing that I've found in literature is that so often women in their 50s are baking cookies and
Oh, geez.
solving cozy mysteries, and we're not supposed to be sexual, vibrant women anymore. And we're just
Well, that's
supposed to,
depressing. I totally
isn't it?
disagree.
I do too, but I think so often the characterization of women is
Yeah.
that we're supposed to be okay with our lot in life. Our prime is gone. We did our job. Just be okay baking in the kitchen. You don't have to want
No.
sex or, sex is icky or whatever. And I'm like, no, it's not. This is fun. And this
Yeah.
should be fun for us. And we should be allowed to explore that part of our person,
Yeah.
even though it's scary.
Now I think I'm gonna have to go get this book and read it.
I hope you do.
You're talking my like you're speaking my language. I love it.
Yeah, and I think that's what Scarlet gave women or gives women license. I think Jen and Long Enough to Love You Too gave women license to own their life
Yeah.
and not say go run and get divorced. I mean, she went through the
Right.
process. Scarlet went through the process and you find your place. And Scarlet, I mean, there's some fun little steamy, sexy kind of exploration and big ups moments and big realizations, but it's ultimately about being true to yourself,
Sure.
being being my words I use and I live by this mantra is I am unapologetically me. I
Mm.
am gonna say what I feel. I'm probably going to offend you to some point. I don't know that I would want to date me. I mean, honestly, you might end up in a book.
I love it.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I hate cliches, but I'm starting to realize cliches happen for a reason. And I know finding Scarlet, I went through my own divorce and I went right into this really beautiful new relationship, and it was unapologetically me. And then 6 months ago, the wheels fell off of that relationship, and I'd experienced heartbreak for the first time at 57. I'm like, dang, I could have gone the rest of my life never having had my heart broken.
Wow.
But The Unabridged Life of Missy Kincaid, a story I knew I wanted to tell. I didn't know that I needed the heartbreak to really be able to tell Missy's story. And Missy's story is it starts out with Missy having a breakdown in the cereal aisle because she just discovered her mom is dead, and her mom, who had not really was estranged from her life, she's in the cereal aisle, and the lover, her all the faces of her lovers past are like popping at her from cereal
Sure.
boxes. And
Yeah.
it's just kind of sets the frame of a forced evaluation of her life and how she got to where she is. But it also is really more of a story of family dysfunction,
Mm,
of
okay.
figuring out your place in relationships, in society, with your children, and really owning yourself. And but I think what people really liked about Missy and Finding Scarlet was that Missy was just a fireball. She was
Yeah.
feisty, and she just owned it. But my feeling when I started getting feedback from readers telling me they wanted to know Missy's story was,
Yeah.
you aren't born that way, right?
Right.
You become
You're
that person
created.
through,
Yeah.
yeah, through life experiences, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I wanted to show her strength and her power and her conviction. It was not an easy road to get there for her,
Yeah.
and all the things that she had to balance, but really taking ownership of her life, and not needing a man to define her, to have that empowerment, right? But there is a love story in there. I'm a romantic at heart. My heart was broken, but it doesn't mean that I still don't believe that
Yeah.
there's love out there, whatever form that might be. So yeah, so that's really how I got to this point of creating these
So
women.
in your case, almost art imitates life.
It does, which is why I
Yeah.
say I don't know that I'd want to date me. I went on some really icky dates, and there's a chapter called The Ick in Missy Kincaid. I
Oh,
mean, there's life just feeds it to you sometimes, and I take notes, and I'm watching, and I love that. I love that about being a writer, and to getting to tell stories and
well, it's very
finding
self-reflective, I think.
it. Yes, I mean, almost to a fault. It's cathartic for me. I
Yeah.
might,
Oh, I bet.
yeah, but I might also throw people under the bus. My ex-boyfriend, I don't know if he's really gonna love the parts I wrote about him, but that's okay. He knows who he is,
Yeah.
and it was a beautiful love story until it wasn't. And I think it's also the same way for Missy Kincaid. I feel like I was really, and she was really lucky to have been loved by this man, but the hurt from it was a million times probably more profound, but the learning also
Yeah.
incredible from it too.
Sure.
So I think there's strength in experiences, and it's what we do with those experiences that make us better, stronger, more present in our own lives.
Absolutely. So how does it feel to impact women and them to tell you that you wrote their story? How does that feel?
Oh, it's very surreal,
Yeah.
right? Because I you always think that what you're going through is unique to you, that you're the only
Absolutely.
one that's ever experienced these feelings. You're the only one who ever had this happen to you, knowing that's not true, but in those moments you feel that way. But I had a friend, I swim competitively. I had a friend that I hadn't seen in a long time come up to me in the locker room, grab me, and she goes, "Oh my God, Finding Scarlet." She goes, "I'm reading it." She goes, "I had to put it down and take a deep breath and go, how did she know?"
Oh, wow.
And I
Oh,
was like,
wow.
that is
That's
so
huge.
cool. It is so huge. And it just reminds me that however I put it on paper, whoever my characters are, people can see themselves in those characters,
Yeah.
or little snippets of their own life in those characters. And that's so rewarding to me. I mean, I'm not making tons of money on my books. I'm waiting for my Colleen Hoover moment, right? Where somebody discovers my books and says, "Oh my God, you have to read these." But I love that I get to be a voice regardless. And I love that people understand it, and are engaged with my characters, and see themselves in them and are invested in them. I think that's what's so huge.
Absolutely. So is there going to be another book after was it the story Missy Kincaid, right?
The Unabridged Life of Missy Kincaid.
Yes. Is there one after that?
I'm I think writing divorce fiction is exhausting, but I think that there's other characters there's a great ensemble of characters in the Scarlet and Missy Kincaid stories that I definitely can explore further
Okay.
and tell their stories too. I think Amber has the potential. Amber was a contestant on The Bachelor
Oh,
and
okay.
made a decision too in her own life to leave the billionaire she married because he was a dud. And she wants to buy her own Jimmy Choos instead of having his
Yeah.
assistant buy her Jimmy Choos, kind of things. I could explore her story, but there's actually two other books that I have that I would like to write. One is more along this kind of women's empowerment. It's about two sisters and a friend and toxic relationships with their mother. And honestly, I don't have a toxic relationship with my mother,
I
which
do, so I would definitely be interested in that one.
I, I
I
and
know a
I
lot. I
don't.
know a lot of women that do. So,
Yeah, well, and in Missy Kincaid, the relationship with her mother is toxic. And but that's mostly because she was in a mental institution, right? I mean, there's so many complexities about
yeah.
that character. But I just think our relationships are also really fun to explore.
Mm.
And then the other book is actually I just got back from Croatia and I did this really amazing swim adventure trip through Croatia. And I was in Dubrovnik, and in 1998, I did my first writing ever, other than when I was younger. And I wrote a screenplay, thinking, "Yay, I'm going to be a screenwriter," not realizing you can't self-publish screenplays,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's not going to work because that industry is just way too complex for me to even try to delve into. But I had written a screenplay that I loved, and it was kind of now it would be considered historical
Sure.
fiction. And I'd like to go back and really dive deeper into that. And
Mhm.
having been in Dubrovnik now, just really kind of lit my fire a little bit to pursue that. So I definitely have books, but we'll see how Missy Kincaid does. If I get the feedback from people saying I want to know more about the women of Sullivan's Island, of Scarlet's
Yeah.
Harlots, then absolutely
I
it would
almost
be
feel
joy.
like this Finding Scarlet, the Unabridged Life of Missy Kincaid, this could almost be like a Netflix special.
I
Because I watch a lot of those. I love the romance movies. I really do. You know, like I'm a total girly when it comes to that. So you're
oh,
like talking. These
absolutely.
are like right up Netflix's alley. Seriously.
If you have any connects at Netflix,
We will see. A lot, we shall see, because I
you
know
know,
a lot of people, and a lot of people listen and watch the show. So
well, I hope so. I did something fun. I'm not a super big fan of AI, but I do think there are some fun things to play around with it. And I said to Chat GPT, I'm like, these are the four characters of Scarlet's Harlots. What would they look like in a Desperate
ooh,
Housewives kind of
fun.
thing? And I love, oh my gosh, I'm gonna totally draw a blank right now from Suits, the redhead. Oh my
I don't
gosh.
know the name, but I know what you're talking. Who you're talking.
And it's gonna bum me out because I really love her. Sarah? But anyways, I got this great visual of these four women, and I was like, oh my God, these are great. Ricky
Yeah,
Lake was Margot from Finding Scarlet and Missy, and Sarah Rafferty, thank you. Sarah
there you
Rafferty
go.
as Missy Kincaid, kind of this fiery, buxomy kind of woman. And um anyways, it was a great little cast of characters, and I'm like, oh my God, I could totally see this. But it's we get excited, we
Yeah,
visualize, and like anything, I don't write because I expect to make a ton of money. I write because I want to tell stories that I want to tell,
and
that I wish I could read, and I hope that will resonate with readers.
you're doing a great job. And I like the passion. I can just feel the passion coming through just when you talk about it, and it's beautiful. And you
Oh,
are
thank
a very fascinating woman, and I think that that is kind of the what makes your story so alive, because you're so alive. With that being said, let's show the audience who's watching the book of Finding Scarlet. Let's see
Finding
that.
Scarlet
There we go.
is.
And then where can people find you, connect with you, and purchase your books?
So, Finding Scarlet is mostly available on Amazon at this point in time or through my own website, kirstenpursell.com, KirstenPursell.com. And I will sign copies, do all that. The Unabridged Life of Missy Kincaid. Oh,
Mm.
this is like my author pre-cover. I'm so excited by this one.
Oh, cute.
is actually available for pre-order. It comes out on October 14th, the day before my birthday,
Yay!
right? Also available on Amazon, but that one is actually available also through Apple and Kobo
Okay.
and all your usual sites. It'll be everywhere. Finding Scarlet right now is pretty much just on Amazon. I know not everyone's a big Amazon fan, so you can also directly through me offer get them. And I'm actually offering a bundle if you go through my own website and go then through my store, $35 for both books, signed copies with a little extra bonus. You'd get an advance copy because this doesn't even come out until the 14th. So
Oh, wow. Okay.
anything and everything can be found through my website pretty much or on my social media
Very
stuff
cool.
as well.
You guys, I'm gonna put those links in the show notes. So if you are interested in diving into finding Scarlet, don't hesitate to click that link. Go follow Kirsten on social media, and purchase the bundle if you're interested in following the journey. Kirsten, this is the part of the show where I like to ask for last words of wisdom or advice. What would you like to leave with us today?
Oh, I love the part where we get to say, be your own person, live your life unapologetically, be you. I think it takes us forever to kind of get to that point to be okay with who we are, but you
Yeah.
know what? Life's a journey. Enjoy the ride, and hopefully we all land in a place where we can feel good about the journey that we've taken.
Amen to
Unapologetic.
that. Beautiful. Well said. I'm a fan now, so I'll be getting, I might be getting that bundle because I'm definitely in alignment with what you've shared. So, Kirsten,
Oh, I
thank you
love
so
it.
much
I
for
love it.
sharing your story and, you know, in creating a story for women to connect to, because I think that it's important, even more so in today's world where I think we feel so disconnected that it's great to find something that can connect us to each other, even if it's a fiction novel, but it's very relatable, and I think that's great.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. This was a blast.
You're welcome. You guys, this is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free. To live your best life, you must live label free. As always, don't forget to subscribe, follow, rate, review, comment, share, all those good things. And I'll be back soon with more dynamic guests.